Hi, David here, and welcome back to the channel, where we're looking at the teaching of divine love through the automatic writings of the early 20th century medium James Padgett. In the last two videos in this series, 10.1 and 10.2, we looked at messages James received from Jesus. If that sounds unlikely, which I grant you it may well do, go back and have a look at those. In both of these messages, James received communications mentioning divine love, with the one from Jesus on December 17, 1914, telling him that I am in a sphere that is of the highest and closest to the fountainhead of God's love. That message also contained the following very striking words: I tell you that only the man who has received this love into his soul, and lets it fill that soul so that there is no room for anything that tends to defile it, can be said to have received salvation, or to be at one with the Father. Today we're going to be looking at more closely at just exactly what Jesus means by those words. Are we looking at something distinct from the kind of natural or human love that we are all familiar with from our lives in this world? If so, what is it? And what does it mean to share in it? To answer this, we're going to look at a message James received on March 4, 1915. In this message, Jesus speaks at length on the nature of natural human love, so as to be clear how it differs from divine love, although the message does also explain what is needed in order to obtain divine love, and its effect upon the soul. This is not always an easy message, so I will be pausing now and again to reflect upon the wording and to explain it as best I can. Looking at the wording, you can almost feel the struggle to get parts of this message through James's mind and onto the paper, because there are ideas here that he did not grasp easily, something that James himself later acknowledged. There are later messages that are more fluent, but I think this is an important one to look at because it establishes a foundation for what follows, and it's interesting to see the process whereby his automatic writing becomes more fluent over time. Anyway, this message begins, I am here, Jesus. I want to write tonight on the love of man. This love is one that is not understood by humanity in its most important particular. I mean that this love is not one that is sufficient to give man the highest degree of happiness which he may obtain, either in mortal life or in the life to come. This love is of a nature that changes with the change in the ideas and desires of men, and has no stability that will serve to keep him constant in his affections. No man who has only this love can ever be in condition to say that he will continue to have this love for a longer time than the present. And when he thinks that this love can never change or leave him, he is only giving thought to the wish. This love is one that may last for a long time, and sometimes it seems that it can never die or grow old. Yet, in its very nature, it has not that constancy which ensures its lasting longer than a moment of time. I do not mean to say anything disparaging of this natural love, for it is undoubtedly the greatest gift that God has bestowed upon mankind, and without it men would be in a very unhappy condition. Yet it is not the great love of God which all men may receive, if they will only seek and strive to obtain it by prayer and faith. This natural love is that which unites men and women while on earth, and enables them to approach nearer to a life of happiness than does any other human quality. But still, it always has the danger accompanying it that sometime, in some way, it may cease to exist. The mother's love is the strongest of all loves given to mortals, and apparently it, can never end or grow old, yet a time may come when that love will die or cease to retain all its vitality or beauty. I know it is said that love never dies, but that is not true as regards this natural love, and no man can say that his love of today will remain his love of a few years hence. There's a lot that we could pick up on here, but essentially the message is that our natural human capacity for love is a wonderful thing, but that it is not stable, in the sense that the people and things we love are capable of changing from time to time. From the perspective of people in spirit, a mortal lifetime upon the earth is but a moment, and a love that lasts even for that length of time is brief. Even the comment that a mother's love is the strongest of all natural loves needs to be viewed in the light of the law of affinity or attraction, and the many examples we have of mothers and their children in spirit being drawn over time to others who are genuinely like themselves and who they wish to be with, because the affinity that is felt is stronger. Natural human love can be durable in terms of how we judge things upon the earth, and it can feel uncontrollably intense and wonderful for short periods. But this is all a long way from the kind of stability that something requires to last for all time. Our natural human capacity for love is often what makes life upon this earth bearable, even enjoyable and exciting for periods of time. It is also what gives us the capacity to make this world a much kinder, more loving, and more civilized one than it is. Yet the fact that our natural capacity for love does not, of itself, lead us to create such a world is telling. Jesus continues, "Yet there is a love that may be called the natural love that will last forever, providing these souls seek and obtain the divine love. This love is not two loves, but one, and is the same love manifested in the two opposite sexes, and which is only complete when these two apparently independent souls live together in perfect unity. This is what is commonly called the love of soulmates, which is that essence of spiritual love which makes the happiness of the two spirits seemingly complete. Yet this love is not of a divine nature, but merely the highest type of the natural love. So when men speak of the love of one mortal for his fellow man, it means merely the love which his human nature is capable of having and giving to another mortal. At first sight, this can look quite a tricky section to make sense of. I'm going to have to jump ahead slightly in order to explain it. We've come across the mention of soulmates already when we saw James Padgett's father, John, mention that he was engaged in the enjoyable task of introducing soulmates to each other. That was back in video 1.9. Jesus here describes soulmate love as one love manifested in the two opposite sexes. One point I need to jump forward to is a more recent message to the effect that this is a general rule, but that not all soulmates are of opposite sexes or genders. However, it does seem to be a universal rule that everyone has a soulmate. Jesus later confirms that he has one, although he does not identify who it is. The other point I need to jump ahead on slightly is as to the effects that divine love has upon the human soul who comes to share in it. Divine love is the substance of God. We could call divine love something different, give it a different name, use a different word or phrase to point to it, but that's what it is. The human soul who comes to share in divine love is thereafter made, at least to some extent, of the same stuff as God, and will therefore last as long as God does. This is the key teaching that Jesus brought to this world. Divine love is the way to personal immortality. This is what it is to conquer death. You can share in divine love during your earthly life, but it won't make your physical body immortal. That's not the real you. It's just a temporary covering, a vehicle for the soul, which allows us certain experiences that bring us to consciousness. Soulmate love is an expression of natural love and lasts as long as those who share it. Two soulmates who seek God's love and come to share in it become immortal. As a consequence of this, that soulmate love then becomes something that lasts for all time. This is what Jesus means by saying that soulmate love may be called the natural love that will last forever, providing these souls seek and obtain the divine love. Soulmate love cannot outlast those who share it. But if those who share it become immortal, their love will last forever. More generally on human love, natural human love, Jesus goes on to say, I do not wish to be understood in any way as implying that this love is not a great boon and blessing to humanity, for it is, and without it there would not be the harmony that exists on earth. Yet at this time of war, hatred and anger seems to have taken its place in the hearts of many men who are now striving to kill and destroy. But this is only for a season. The war will cease, and then men will realize that only their love for one another can make the earth a happy and desirable place to live on. Well, that was written in the early stages of the First World War. But reading those words in 2022, they are again sadly pertinent, given the conflict in Ukraine, and indeed in many other places around the world. We haven't learned, or at least not enough of us have done. The next section of this message is a reminder of Jesus' own Jewish background. It's not an easy section, but bear with me. Jesus says, "Love, I know it is said, is the fulfilling of the law. But no man can thoroughly understand this until he knows what love is." I do not mean that in order to fulfill every law, man must have the divine love, because there are laws that govern the divine existence, and laws that govern the human and merely spiritual existence. And the love of the divine is the fulfilment of the former laws, and the natural love is the fulfilment of the latter laws. So you see that only as men have the love of the divine can they fulfill the laws of divine existence. And so, as they have the natural love only, they can fulfill the natural laws. But this natural love will not be able to make them one with God, as I have before written. And the utmost of its powers and functions is to give them that happiness which they will receive in living the life of a spirit or mortal, unredeemed. When Jesus was present and teaching upon this earth, he sought to make people understand that he was the fulfilment of the law, which his fellow Jews would have understood as indicating Jewish religious law, meaning that Jesus, as both an embodiment and teacher of divine love, was what Jewish tradition had been leading to, But until someone understands which love Jesus is speaking about, that won't make sense to them. As to the natural human love, Jesus says, "I will not say that man should not cultivate this love for his fellow man to the greatest possible degree, for he should. And if that should be the only kind of love that he may have, either on earth or in the spirit world, the more of it that he possesses, the happier he will be, and the greater will be the happiness of his fellow man and fellow spirit." So when I said, when on earth, that men should love their God and love their fellow men as themselves, Matthew 22:37-39, I meant that they should do so with all the possibilities of whatever love they might possess. Yet, if men would only learn, as they can, that there is no necessity for them to have only the natural love, but that they can seek the greater love and obtain the correspondingly greater happiness and immortality. That, right there, is what was different in Jesus' teachings. This is what was new and unique. The teaching that divine love is the way to personal immortality. Jesus continues, "Men do not realize this, though, and seem to be satisfied with this natural love and the pleasures that ensue from its possession. I would not have them do anything that would lessen this love or shut their hearts to its influence when it is pure and good. And yet I cannot help trying to impress upon them the great desirability of having this higher love in their souls. I am a lover of all men, and I want them to feel the happiness of the inflowing of the divine love, and thereby learn what the love of God means, and what they may have if they will only seek. This love of the purely natural will not suffice for the temptations that beset men on earth, and also will not ensure against temptations when they become spirits. I know this, and hence I say it with the positiveness and authority of one who knows. As you are tired, I must stop. With all my blessings and love, I am your brother in spirit, Jesus." Not always an easy message to follow, but so much in it once we start to look at it more closely. The language, obviously, is of its time. When Jesus says he is a lover of all men, he means all of us. It's just that when you're using a human medium whose upbringing was 19th century, you're using a mind that has characteristics reflecting that time and social setting. Also, as I said at the beginning of the video, I suspect part of the reason the language of the message is tricky is because Jesus is trying to express something that the medium, James Padgett, has never even imagined. You can almost feel the struggle to find a pathway through someone else's tangle of thoughts that will allow this new knowledge to be expressed. And we begin to see also why Jesus wants James to seek actively for divine love, because it will mean that James has his own experience of it, so that it is no longer merely an abstract idea that he struggles with, but instead becomes a valuable explanation of James's own experience. Also, it will mean that there is more of a rapport between James and people in spirit who already share in divine love, so that the communication with and through James becomes easier, so that the things Jesus and others wish to share through James can be explained more fully and accurately. Divine love is available to anyone and everyone. Knowing what it is, why would anyone ignore it? Certainly anyone who aspires to be a medium of communication between people in spirit and people here upon the earth is well advised to seek divine love, because of the rapport this would enable with more advanced souls. Good mediumship provides evidence of continuing personal existence, but that is a rudimentary spiritual truth. And the demonstration that we survive the death of our physical bodies is not of itself evidence of immortality, although the two are often conflated. For those who seek divine love, there is the possibility of becoming someone whose awareness increases, so as to allow for the perception and teaching of truths that will prepare people for the life to come, by sharing with them a knowledge of the full range of possibilities for who and what they might become. We can't pass on the knowledge of something we don't have. The other great potential of divine love, of course, is that if we share in it while we are still here upon the earth, the need to create a better society for those of us who are here and those who are yet to come here, and to look after this world more respectfully, becomes not just obvious, but imperative. A different world would give those who come here a totally different experience of life, would make them different people, and therefore different people when they move on from this world. Presently, many people leaving this world have extremely difficult beginnings in spirit because of what this world has made them. That does not need to happen. Helping to change that is what good mediumship should aspire to. On that note, the next video in this sequence, video 10.4, will be uploaded next Sunday, when we will be looking at a message from Jesus in which he reflects upon the state of the world when he was physically present in it, and why it was so difficult for people to grasp his message. So I hope you'll join me for that. The next midweek video will look at a message from James Padgett's old law professor, Joseph Salyard, explaining what it is often like for people who are newly arrived in spirit. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we'll be sharing lots of interesting things in the months ahead. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.